What up, everybody? My name is TricksterShadow, and today we have the dreaded MMR discussion. So, if you guys don't know, pretty much ever since the closed beta for VHS has started, people have been talking about, like, oh, the devs, like, are they going to implement some form of matchmaking? And I believe some devs have alluded to there being some form of matchmaking before. And for the most part, up until like very recently, people have assumed like, oh, maybe like the matchmaking is just Wild West. Like maybe just for the closed beta, everybody plays everybody, and that's just how it is. They're just trying to get data. Well, it would appear, and this was initially seen by not only myself but other players that have been playing in the closed beta for the past couple months, that when the most recent waves happened this week being the week of the 31st, when the most recent waves happened, we noticed that we were not going against that many new people. That the waves were massive. They were sending out a bunch of keys, but we were really only going against like maybe like a couple new people every day. And for the most part, we were going against other people that have been playing a bunch. And you can tell like if people have been playing a bunch, not only by you just recognizing names, but also if you look on the portraits when you're playing in lobbies, the like more elaborate the portrait is, the more stars that it has on it, the more experienced they are because your portrait updates or portrait border updates with your mastery level. So you can tell who's new if they have like a really basic profile border. But we noticed that we weren't going against a lot of new people, and we figured that hey, maybe the devs they implemented some type of matchmaking, maybe they implemented some type of MMR, and that was kind of the assumption because it was too much of a coincidence. Because in previous waves, we would go like whenever there's a new Q wave, it would be like every lobby is like filled with new people. But it would seem that the devs have confirmed that there actually is MMR within VHS. So they tweeted this out yesterday, February 1st. It said matchmaking rating in VHS, a brief thread. Spoiler: there's MMR, always has been. And so I'll just read through this, just how it's presented for you guys. So at the beginning of VHS beta, we implemented a basic MMR system. As more invite waves have gone out and our player numbers has increased, the effects of the system become more visible. Notably, those freshly invited to experience VHS are more frequently seeing lobbies full of players with similar amount of experience. So like new people or playing with new people. Likewise, veteran players are often facing off in their own lobbies, veteran players fighting veteran players, and seeing more evenly matched games as a result. The matchmaking system starts off by trying to create a lobby with teams with an average MMR close to the monsters. As players wait in queue, their permissible range of the MMR expands until a match is found. So it tries to find an evenly matched game, or what it considers an evenly matched game. And then the longer the wait time, the more minutes that you're in the queue, the more broad the search gets until it finds somebody that can fill in that spot. Which makes sense because, like, obviously you just want to get into a game and you'd rather sacrifice, like, game balance for actually being able to play a game. Because if you're at, like, top MMR for, like, teen or top MMR for monster, you may not always find like instant queues for like the people that you should be playing against. And so if you can find somebody like even in like the bracket below you, like that's fine. And then at the end of the match, each player's MMR is adjusted by a small amount. We use a mixture of individual performance and match results to determine the adjustment. It is possible to lose a match and gain an MMR, and it is possible to win a match and lose MMR. That is very interesting because and I know a lot of people have drawn the comparison. I'll draw the comparisons as well, especially because it's a really hot button issue. Like with DBD, DBD had the recent Q&A stream, last two Q&A streams really, to where their developers have said, like, oh, if you're so good at the game, then why don't you just win forehead? If you're so good at like Survivor and you loop the killer for 5 gens, get all the saves, do all the generators, but you die at the very end, like if you were really that good of a player, you would have just won. Stuff like that. And it seems like the VHS devs, and a lot of people have issue with that because like you can play super well and then just like die to like some exterior circumstances, and like all of your hard work through the entire match just gets negated by like one circumstance you can't control. That feels kind of bad. But these devs, VHS devs, Hellbent, they are saying that even if you lose a match, if you performed well throughout the entire match, it is possible for your MMR to go up. Because like there could be like you make one mistake, like you're playing super good the entire match, and then you just make a couple mistakes and you end up losing the match as a result. And like you shouldn't just be considered like, oh, like like, oh, you lost all 4 stigmas. Oh, you're just a baby monster. A baby monster would have survived, because that's not how it is. If the match lasts like 20 minutes and everybody's at critical and they just play super well and you make a couple mistakes, or they just play super well and you're not even making mistakes, but they just play super well and super coordinated and they manage to push you into a corner, like, you shouldn't be considered like the same level as somebody that like gets no hits and they die. So it makes sense the way that they're saying it, that it's possible to lose a match but still gain MMR if you play well enough, and it's still possible to win a match and lose MMR if like you just I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a situation where you'd win a match and lose MMR, but like I'm assuming that like they consider like some stuff like not as skillful. I'm really curious to see how they calculate skill, but it's good to see that the system is flexible and that it's not just purely like based off kills and based off like stigmas and stuff like that, or just like, oh, you survived, like you didn't get any stigmas the entire game, but you survived, like, oh, your MR goes up, or oh, you you got killed but you hit everybody and they're at critical, oh well, you lose MR. Like, I'm glad that it's not just strictly binary like that. The final thing they say, it's important to note that the system is far from finished and we're always looking to improve. We have been and will continue to monitor its impact on players throughout the VHS beta and beyond. Thanks for reading. So, MMR is a very like finicky thing. It's kind of like the dreaded, it's like Voldemort. People don't like even uttering its name because there's been a lot of games that have had MMR implemented and it just ends up being not as fun. But I think that MMR does have a place in VHS personally. Now, the reason why I say that is because with VHS, like the reason why DBD doesn't work with MMR is because DBD has more RNG than life itself. And so you could have the same map with the same build, with the same survivors, all with the same build, and you could lose from match to match to match to match, or you could win from match to match to match to match, just depending on the RNG of the map alone, because the map just dynamically changes in that game. But in VHS, things are a lot more static. Really, the biggest RNG element is like items like spawning on tables. Like sometimes you'll have a cola spawn on a table, sometimes you'll have a chompy bar spawn on a table, and even those are just they're a little bit smaller of gameplay impacts in my opinion. But even that, like the crafting tables, they're pretty set in place. They're obviously like going to move like a little bit, but they're always going to be the same general areas. The maps, all the windows are static. It is very little RNG in this game, very little RNG. And so this game having MMR makes a lot more sense, because when you lose a match or when you win a match, it is a lot like either due to your team playing well if you win, or if you play monster, if you making enough good decisions, or if you lose a match, you just made too many mistakes, or your team made too many mistakes. Like, it feels like you are directly contributing to your successes and directly contributing to your failures. And so that's one big reason why I don't really mind MMR in this game, and why I think it actually makes sense. Because I think this game has a lot more skillful expression than a lot of other asymmetricals that I've played. And when you are playing against, or playing as, or like playing with people that are skillful, you can tell. You can tell that, like, just by how, like, if you're chasing down a teen, like, how good they are by how they're using their weapon. I've chased people before, and they have a weapon in hand, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I can get this hit. And they just play super well. They're really good with kiting. They're really good with positioning. And I just realized, like, yeah, no, this person's too good. I actually can't catch them out in here. Like, if they were any worse, like, I could, but they're just too good. Like, I have to, like, try to, like, be a little bit more smart with how I approach this. And so I think that the MMR makes sense because of how much skillful expression there is in the game. Now, I've heard some people say, like, oh, well, like, what, like, this is forced MMR, like, this is like forced being played competitively, like, there's no casual mode. And I've argued before, like, with DBD was my main game before, that, like, oh, if DBD wants to have an MMR mode, then they need to have a casual mode. I don't really think the same can be said for VHS. And the reason why I say that is because in VHS, they definitely could try it, but I feel like it wouldn't work, because in VHS, a lot of the gameplay, like I said, is skill based and like map knowledge and stuff like that. And if you have somebody that like knows how to use the weapons, they know which weapons to utilize for certain situations, like, oh, I need to make this weapon because this monster is playing in this particular way, it takes away a lot of like the casual aspects of the game, to where if you know how to utilize a weapon to its full potential, and if you know how to like utilize a map to its full potential, if you know proper spacing and everything, it stops being a casual experience, and it's a lot more competitive. So even if you have a casual game mode, people are still going to play in like a more competitive way, which I think is fine, because I think VHS is very fun, like in a competitive space. I think that the game is actually a lot more fun when you're going against people that are evenly matched. One thing about evenly matched games, though, is evenly matched games, they take a lot out of you. I have a lot of fun with them. I have a lot of fun playing Monster against 14 that are really good, but I feel like the entire match is just me playing like a bunch of games of chess all at the same time and trying to win them all. And it's really fun. Like it sounds like, I know to some people that sounds like really bad, but like it feels really good to play. And the reason why it feels really good is I know that every choice that I make, every time that I die to a stigma, I can identify like where I went wrong and what I could have done better. Every time I like kill somebody, I can see like how I outplayed them and like how like I should probably replicate that in the future. And it just feels super satisfying. Like if you're like constantly getting chased by the teens and they all have weapons, and then you manage to outskill them by downing them, or like wasting a ton of their weapon charges or stuff like that, it feels very, very satisfying. It feels a lot more satisfying than a lot of the games that I've played before. And so I feel like this MMR is good. And of course, like my opinion could change. My opinion could change. Like my opinion has changed on a lot of things with VHS. And I've been meaning to make a video because I've actually passed 1,000 matches played in VHS. And so I've been meaning to make a video about like what I think about the game, where like I think the game needs improvements, which I should probably try to record soon. But I think that this is a good thing. I think this will separate the new people from the veterans, because there were issues with the veterans playing against new people. Like I was seeing like some people, like they just wouldn't really play that much of VHS, but every time that there was a new key wave, they would boot up VHS and they would play their like level 95 Doll Master with Lethal Weapon 3, and they would just stomp all of the babies as fast as possible. Like just like trying to play their heart out against like people. Like I'd be like the only like experienced teen, and there'd be 3 new people, and they would like down somebody, and they would down another person right next to that body, and then they would put their body right on top of the doll so they know if anybody approaches the weapon so that they can more effectively slug them out. And like when you're playing with experienced teens, that's not as bad. Like it's still hard to get out of, but when you're playing with experienced teens, like you don't get in those situations as much because people don't fall prey to like those type of situations. But I don't think we'll have as many of those issues anymore. Like obviously with the MMR broadening the queue times, like there'll be situations like that still. But I think that this will lend itself to a lot of people that are new to the experience, new to VHS. Like they'll have a lot better of a time, which is good, I think. And I think this kind of alleviates some of the concerns. I've heard some people have concerns that like, oh, like all these people, they're playing the beta and they're just gonna stop me as soon as I start playing in early access. Well, like that may be initially because like I assume everybody's gonna get wiped, everybody's MMR is gonna get wiped. But like if you're really that concerned about it, you could always like not play for a week when early access comes out, and then after that week hop on, and then you're gonna be playing with like all the new people, because all the people that have played in closed beta are probably gonna like get their MMR like skyrocketing high as soon as early access comes out, and after they play like a bunch of games. So I don't think it's that big of an issue, and I think it's something that'll resolve itself, especially when early access comes out and the MMR equalizes for however like where everybody should be. And yeah, I think this is a good thing. I know a lot of people are very scared of MMR, especially because a lot of people are coming from DBD, and DBD's MMR is one of the big reasons why a lot of people haven't been playing the game as much. But I think at the end of the day, this game lends itself to be a lot more competitive. This game is a lot more fair in terms of its RNG. In my opinion, there's not that much of it, and there's a lot more skillful expression in this game. And I just think the MMR makes sense. I really do. If it ends up being unfun, I can see the devs adjusting it a little bit to be like a little bit more broad, or like adjust like the matchmaking logic. But from what I've played, the matches are intense. the matches are very hard to win, but they make sense. Like, it makes sense that, like, because, like, for me, of course, like, my experience with, like, playing Monster is going to be different from everybody else's, because my MMR for Monster is probably the highest it could be because I have a 95% win rate as Monster. And so, of course, I'm going against people that are super cracked out and that, like, it's going to be, like, super hard in order to beat them, because of course I would. Like, if I have 95% win rate, the game is going to try to give me people that'll get my win rate down, because it's like, oh, you're, like, have a near perfect win rate. Like, of course, like, we're going to give you people that will, like, challenge that near perfect win rate. And I feel like that's what's been happening. I feel like I've been getting people that I don't know if I'm gonna win. Like, there's a lot of times where, like, in matches where, like, I just don't know. Like, these people are so good, they're so coordinated, and it makes sense because of where I am in the matchmaking. And I think that's fine. I personally think it's fine. But ramble done. I would love to hear your guys' opinion about the MMR. If you've been playing in the past couple days, whether you got a key or you just had a key and you've been playing the closed beta for the past few weeks or few months, I'd love to hear what you think about the way the matchmaking is going. And yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thought about MMR in general. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'll probably try to record. I may do like another gameplay video tomorrow. I'll probably try to record like my thoughts after my first 1,000 games, and just to let you guys know like what I think and like where I think the game is at right now and stuff like that. And I will see you guys later. Bye bye.